Hey everybody, it's Paige Evans. Thank you so much for joining me today. I have a new process video to share with you featuring this mini album made from canvas. I started with this canvas banner from Craftsmith that I found at Michael's. It's got 10 fabric tags and I was inspired to turn it into a mini album instead of a banner. And so I grabbed some acrylic paints, some sprays, some watercolors, and I wanted to make each pennant a different color. And I started by using these shimmers spray mists and sprayed the front and back of each side. But I didn't have enough colors, so then that's when I decided to try watercolors, and you'll see me do that in just a second. I love all of the different textures that this creates from the droplets and whatnot. And so I'm using these watercolors by Prima. These are my favorite watercolors in the whole wide world. I love the opacity, and I love this mint blue color. So I tried watercoloring on top, but it wasn't making it as opaque as I wanted it to be. And so I pulled in these Vicki Boutin acrylic paints, and this is what I painted the rest of them with. I just love these colors. How many times can I say the word love in this video? Let's keep track, but it's true. I really love how the color looks straight out of the bottle, and I did mix water into it to help the paint spread across the entire canvas. And so there are 10 tags, like I said, so I picked 10 colors and painted each tag, and I actually set them outside to dry for a couple hours because it was a nice day, nice and warm and sunny, and that helped them dry faster rather than drying inside. And so then I decided to go over the tags that I had already spray misted with a very similar color of acrylic paint to give them a good coverage of color all over. I just wanted them all to be consistent. And so by painting them all with acrylic paint, that helped tie them all together, which is important in mini albums. You want to have kind of a theme, and so I like to create my mini albums assembly line style, basically at first, working on them all together, and then working on them individually, one by one, to add the photos and embellishments, which you will see me do. So I did want an orange banner, and Vicki, I love you. I love that orange, but it was a little too bright for what I wanted, so I went into my acrylic paint stash and I found this kind of burnt orangish red color, and that's the color I went with for orange. And you'll notice that the paper towels have a texture on them, and it actually created a texture on one side of the pennants, which I thought was cool. I'm all about texture. I have two different colors of yellow. I just thought that they all went well together, all these colors together. Give me all the colors, made a really pretty rainbow. So what else can I say about these? I think I have one or two more pennants. I loved working with the fabric. It was just a different medium that I've never worked with before for the base of a mini album. I've done lots of paper mini albums, lots of cardstock albums. Never done acrylic or fabric, so lots of possibilities still. Then I printed my photos. I get a lot of questions about how I print my photos so small. I use Picasa to create the collage, and Picasa is no longer in service. You can't even download it anymore, but I know there are free collage apps out there, so I need to do some research so that I can refer people to them. But I created the collage in Picasa, and then in Adobe Photoshop I created a new 12 by 12 document, and I have a 12 or a large format printer, so I was able to trim my paper down to 12 by 12 and print these out. So I will leave links to my printer and the paper that I use. Hopefully you can grab those too. So then I want to do some stenciling with modeling paste, and most of these are my cut files as well as an actual stencil that I collaborated with the April Hip Kit Club to create a stencil, so that's kind of fun. I would love to make more stencils in the future, but for now I just cut 8. I cut 8 of my cut files from smooth white cardstock, and I shrunk them down really small. These are about 6 inches square, and my Cameo was able to cut them flawlessly, and to do that I always use white textured American Crafts cardstock. I use a ratchet blade instead of an auto blade. I've just found the ratchet blade works better for me. I changed the depth on the blade to 5 and the speed to 2. And it cut all of these cut files, these tiny intricate designs that I turned into stencils beautifully. And so I am mixing the same color of paints that I used in with white modeling paste, and I am applying the paste with a palette knife through the stencil on top of each tag, and this is going to create some awesome texture on each tag, some interest. And again, I'm doing this assembly line style, so rather than working on one tag at a time, I'm going to do the same techniques on all of the tags first. So first I painted them, and now I'm going to apply modeling paste to all of them, and then you'll see what I do next. Don't want to give it all away. Let's just keep watching. So this is just on a regular plate that I had in the kitchen. I put a dollop of white modeling paste. This is by Liquitex. Add a drop of the acrylic paint that I used to paint that tag, and it just creates a lighter shade. And then scraping it across the stencil, and when you lift off the stencil, you have to ooh and ah because it creates such a fun texture. I love working with modeling paste, and it dries really quickly, but again, I did put them outside to dry in the warmth and sunshine. These teeny tiny hearts, the tiniest ones, kind of just look like polka dots, but that's okay. I still love the texture that it adds. Check out this cut file. I, again, shrunk it down to 6 inches. It's one of my favorite floral background cut files, and it was still able to cut beautifully. So I love my Silhouette Cameo. I know I say that time and time again, but it's true. I just love all the possibilities and things that you can do with it. So here is the darker orange tag, and again with a heart background. These are all my cut files, which you can find in the Silhouette store, or you can find them in my Etsy shop. I have the SVG file, so even if you're a Cricut user or a scan and cut user, you can use all of my cut files with all of the different machines that are out there on the market. So that was the stencil that I designed with the Hip Kit Club. Super cool. And this last stencil, this is one that it's also one of my cut files, but I had it in my stash already cut. So I'm using this petals background, and it's smaller than 6 inches square, which is roughly the size of the tag. Well, it's about 6 by 4. And so to create more coverage, I just moved it around and applied more paste through. So I've lined up all of the tags. Look how pretty they look. All those bright colors just make my heart so happy. And now, again, assembly line style, I'm going to splash watered down white acrylic paint across all of them. And this just creates contrast. It creates another layer of interest. So just splashing some of that white acrylic paint on top. And then I'll come in with the spray inks by Shimmers that I originally used at the very beginning, and splashing them on, dropping them on color. I'm still not over the color on color technique or tone on tone technique. Same thing. I just love using same colors of things all together to create really cool texture. So I am going to create this album horizontally. Right now I have them vertically just because it fits better into this filming, the way I'm filming. But right now I'm going to add the pictures, again, color on color, kind of whatever color stands out in the photo, I'm placing it on top of that tag. So this album will not be chronological, so some of the journaling won't really match with the photos in the end, but it's okay. It'll just kind of read like a storybook, and I can always go back to my blog post and see in which order we went on this adventure. So this album is all about our few days in St. Petersburg, Russia. We went on a cruise. I think it was back in 2015. So I think I have enough travel adventures to create mini albums for the rest of my life and still never finish. So yeah, we went on a Scandinavian cruise. One of the stops was St. Petersburg in Russia, and it was amazing. So there were a lot of bright colors, and since I'm using a lot of bright colors throughout this album, I thought it would be perfect to document that day. So this is a technique I learned from my dear friend Missy Whitten, tangled up thread. Again, it just creates another layer of interest and texture. Just bundle it up, and I added it as a first layer onto the background. I am using my Horizon collection with pink paisley to embellish this entire album. So you saw me design the front using epoxy stickers and thickers. The thickers are actually from my Whimsical collection, but I love how they were all the different colors. And I sincerely apologize. I'm so sorry that my camera keeps focusing in and out. I really need to figure out how to turn off the autofocus so that it's just one focus and not blurry. I'm so sorry. But I didn't want to just skip over all this. I want you to see how I'm embellishing each page. So please just forgive me for my silly camera, and I will figure out how to make it not autofocus. So originally I was going to do tone on tone. So all the embellishments for each page would be the same color of the tag. So like on this mint blue, I was going to have lots of mint blue elements. But I've done that technique so many times. I want to try and push myself out of my comfort zone and get out of this. It's not a funk, but just out of this technique that I always fall back on. So I tried to limit the colors that I used on each page. So here it's got greens and purples and pinks. Again, I'm so sorry that it keeps blurring. Please don't hate me. I'll try and fix it for the next videos. But yeah, I just want to show you how I'm embellishing each page. So again, this peach page, I'm kind of keeping it more pastels, so lighter pinks, lighter oranges, lighter blues, and then yellows. So it's not all of the colors on every page, but it's just a few colors. Again, trying to break out of the mold of doing the color on color technique that I like to do all the time. So I'm using stickers, chipboard stickers, and underneath a lot of the photos I'm adding a 2x2 paper pad, which you can find in the 2x2 paper swatches in Horizon, and I scuffed up the edges with a pair of scissors to create texture. On this last page, this was my favorite part of St. Petersburg, was this ornate Orthodox church, and so I went back and printed the photo a little bit larger so that it was kind of like a going out with a bang on the last photo. I copied and pasted the text from the blog post recap that I did. Well, actually my husband did. After a couple years, I got sick of writing all the blog recaps, so my husband wrote them and I edited all the pictures and put them in order and everything. Anyway, copied the journaling, printed it out in, this is my favorite font called Remington Noiseless. I think I did it to size 8. So it makes it tiny, but the mini album is tiny, so it works. And then I trimmed it into strips, and on the left side of each tag, or each spread, so on the back side of each tag, I glued the journaling in place. And because it's canvas, it took a while for it to dry. You really have to press it for a few seconds to make sure it stays put, and I actually put weights on top to make sure that they stayed in place permanently. So I spent some time gluing journaling strips to the back of each tag and then embellished with a heart epoxy sticker or chipboard sticker above. But the journaling wasn't the main focus of this album, it's the pictures and the embellishments. To connect the album together, I'm using these large binder rings, and these tags come with eyelets already, so you just loop the tags onto binder rings. You could also use ribbon. Could tie a ribbon around the binder rings. I still might go back and do that. And that is the finished album. So I want to flip through it really quickly. I did add some machine stitching to almost every page, I think. I did it on every page just, again, to add more texture and interest. And sometimes I wanted to fit more photos on a page than would fit, so I stapled them together to create interactive elements, layer them together. I really loved making this a mini album. I love lots of bright colors. I love my Horizon collection. Here I go with all the love. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you again really soon.